Yeah, so for today, we're going to kind of just do a recap on kind of year-end duties for a solo 401k custodian and trustee. And it'll be pretty brief, more of a kind of bullet point checklist. And then from there, we can discuss if anyone that has a solo 401k, what they've done, or we usually kind of go off topic. So either way is good with me. So what I'll start with is just kind of discussing what the duties of custodian are, then explain how those are different in a solo 401k from an IRA or a normal 401k. So custodian is a person or entity with a fiduciary responsibility over the assets. So depending on the situation, a custodian might simply be a bank or a brokerage account, or it can be defined as someone who is hired or has been selected to have fiduciary responsibility or authority over the assets in the account. For IRAs and normal 401ks, the Internal Revenue Code is very clear that there needs to be a custodian who acts as a fiduciary role, that is a bank or a trust company that's responsible for your assets. This required custodian is pretty much in charge of your money. They're the ones that can kind of help and dictate where the money goes. For a normal IRA and 401k, it must be a third party custodian acting as a fiduciary and accepting responsibility over your assets. And they're also the ones deciding when and where the assets can be invested. So with the IRA and the normal 401k, the lack of freedoms often drives investors or clients into setting up a self-directed solo 401k plan. People entering the solo 401k plan that are self-directed, they're investors looking for more freedom to invest their money on their terms without having to ask permission of a third party. So the reason you're able to do a solo 401k and be kind of the custodian and the trustee yourself is that there's a different section in the tax code that allows it. So in the tax code for solo 401ks, a custodian is simply referring to where assets are held rather than who's governing the authority over the assets. So keep in mind, you still have a custodian somewhere holding the assets because you personally can't hold the assets in your solo 401k. You can't put the money under your mattress or dig a hole in the yard and bury it, but the funds still need to be withheld in what the IRS would consider a bank or a trust company, a regulated body. So that would in essence just mean a regulated bank or brokerage account. So if you have a solo 401k funds and just straight cash, you can leave it in a brokerage account and just have it set there, or you can put it in a bank account. If you were to buy precious metals, you could put those in a safe deposit box in a bank. They would have to be the people that hold it. So really, for solo 401k, the custody is a regulated bank, a brokerage account, Bitcoin, real estate, just some sort of asset that it's being placed in. But again, as being a solo 401k self-directed, you have control of where that money goes. So, and that's kind of what you do as the trustee of the solo 401k. So you're kind of the controlling party. You get to decide where the money goes. All 401k plans, whether they're traditional or solo, they do follow the Employee Retirement and Income Security Act of 1974. And there is federal regulation and it is regulated. Obviously for the solo 401k, there's not as many regulations because you're managing just one employee. So because it's only your money in the 401k trust, you're able to act as the administrator of the plan. And therefore you're allowed to direct your own assets to where they want the money to be invested. So that's, again, kind of a long-winded answer. The solo 401k, you have control and you're able to determine where it goes. The trustee for a solo 401k plan is kind of a custodian because you're the one opening the accounts under the trust name with solo 401k plan. You're the one managing the money and the investments. From there, you kind of have to keep records as a trustee. I would keep records for 6 years. of the solo 401k plan. So you can do a monthly, annual report, just monthly or yearly report showing kind of the balances in the solo 401k plan. You can determine a written explanation of a rollover or tax withholding election if you do distributions or decide to roll it over. You can also determine the distributions as well. And all those you'd want to document in kind of an annual or monthly distribution, depending on how you do it. The main thing I would focus on as a trustee or the custodian of the solo 401k plan is determining the value of the solo 401k. Because if you do have $250,000 in value and assets in the solo 401k, you do have to file a tax form with the IRS. That form is a 5500 EZ, and that has to be filed by July 31st of the following year. And the asset amount in the accounts are all determined as of 12/31. So for example, December 31st, 12/22, whatever the value of your stocks, real estate, gold, loan balance, all those items you would add together. If it's under 250, you don't have to file anything. If it's 250,000 or above, you will have to file that 5500 EZ, and that has to be filed before July 31st of the following year. To kind of determine the plan assets, if you have multiple solo 401ks, you would add them all together. You would do a cumulative balance of the 250,000. So again, you'll want to keep the documentation for that for 6 years though as well, or if longer if need be, but I'd always keep that documentation. So that's the main driver as a trustee or custodian, is just make sure the cash is not in your hands, that it's in an account. And then that once you hit that 250,000 mark, you want to file that 5500 EZ form with IRS. Additionally, this time of the year, I kind of recommend to people, if you are doing a solo 401k through an S corp where you have withdrawals going via paycheck, now's a good time to look for 2023 and changing your amount. So if you're maxing your solo 401k amount now, you'll want to update your W-2 through your payroll to increase it that $1,000 to $2,000 next year, or however much you want to increase it if you're not maxed out. To have it start the year so you can kind of start funding that and getting that taken care of. And then additionally, once the year end for the business is over for the S corp, as you do your tax return, you'll want to do the calculation on how to fund the employer portion. And you can start doing estimates now if your P&L is up to date. And that would be 25% of kind of your W-2 wage that you'd be able to deduct. The funding for the employer portion, this has to be done before you file taxes. So whether you file them 415, 315, or 915, depending on the entity. So any questions on kind of the duties of having a solo 401k at year end and how to fund it?